Now we start New Testament, Matthew's chapter number 10. Before we start, there are certain terms which are used here, and it is better that we should discuss about them beforehand so that the entire chapter is understood better. The two terms are Sodom and Gomorrah. These are the places within the Israelic region, and these places, the peoples living on these places were practicing homosexuality, because of which they were cursed by the God, and they were not considered good people. When the English word sodomy we say, it means we are talking about homosexuality. So both Sodom and Gomorrah, they represent homosexuality or any act against the nature or the law of nature or law of God. Another word which is used here, that is Beelzebul. Beelzebul is a demon, according to the tradition of the Canaanites, who were part of the people who were living there. They were not considered Jews because they were having a lot of African blood among them, but their language was very much similar to the people of Israel. So this Beelzebul is equivalent to a Satan. It is a demon as per the Jewish tradition, who can fly also and damage. So these are the two terms which you need to understand. First, Sodom and Gomorrah, and second, Beelzebul. So what is discussed in this chapter is that till now we have seen is that Jesus is organizing rebellion. He is making his followers with his propaganda of miracles of curing the diseases, healing the leprosy, paralysis, and resurrecting the dead. And now he wants that his selected followers, should also do the same trick, do the same miracle. We have seen in the beginning that when Jesus was born, he was visited by Magi priests who came from the east. Magi or Majusi are also synonymous with the Iranian people. In Iran, in Afghanistan, and even Pakistan, when we say Majusi, that means the fire worshipper Iranians, the Zoroastrians. So these peoples, these Magis, were the priestly class, one of the priestly class of Iranians, and they were expert in all these chicaneries, the magic. The word magic of English is also derived from Magi. So Jesus was having some association with these priests, and that is why he is doing all these chicaneries, all these tricks which a magician normally does. So now we start this chapter. Jesus is calling his 12 disciples to him and gave them the authority to drive out the drive out the impure spirits and to cure multiple diseases. His 12 disciples are 12 apostles. These apostles are Simon, who is also called Peter, his brother Andrew, James, the son of Zebediah, his brother John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, and the clerk in the revenue department, Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot. These 12 disciples were gathered, and Jesus asked them to go in all the corners of Israel, and he has given them following instructions. First of all, he has told them where to not go. He has told them to not go to Gentiles. Gentiles means pagans. Gentiles means those peoples who were worshipping multiple gods, who were worshipping statues. They may be Iranians or Indian Aryan settlers or vestiges of Hittites and Mitanni people who were living there, or rather who were in some way, rulers of that place. So he is telling that you should not go among them. He is having a lot of hatred for these peoples. He is also telling them to not go to Samaritans who were living in the northern part of Israel. They were Jewish people, but they were having some thing different from the Jews. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. He is telling that you should confine yourself with those peoples who are of the purest Israeli descent, like him. Of course, he was born in mysterious circumstances, but he claimed to have descent from Abraham, David, Solomon, etc. So as you go, proclaim this message. The kingdom of heaven has come near. This message we are hearing even to this day. In every church, the Father is telling, whenever marriage is taking place in the Christian community, we hear that the kingdom of Jesus is coming in Africa, it is coming in all the places, India, Sri Lanka, etc., Mozambique, Ethiopia. So, his disciples are supposed to proclaim, the kingdom of heaven has come near, and he's asking them to heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received and freely you give. He's telling that these attributes, these skills to cure simply by touch, resurrect the dead by simply your wish, these attributes have been given by me, free of cost, so you are supposed to give to the public without taking anything from them. So these things he is instructing, but actually he is teaching them in the magic, and also telling them how to proceed with all the ruses. Then do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. He is telling that you are not supposed to take any money from the people. No bag for the journey, or extra shirt or sandals or a staff for the worker is for the escape. He is telling that you do not go with the belongings. Otherwise, people will be afraid that you have come there to stay and partake in the resources of that land for a long time. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. He is telling that if person or a village is not welcoming you, then you leave that place, and the people of that place are as cursed as the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. As I have already told, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were involved in homosexuality, and because of that they are cursed for the hellfire. So those villagers who are not welcoming you, they will also go to the hell, and they will suffer all those tortures which are attributes of the hell. I am sending you like a sheep among the wolves. He is telling you that the people in general, very kind. You are just like sheep among them, but you have to be very shrewd as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. So this is a very, very wonderful thing and very surprising thing that Jesus Christ, the savior of mankind, is telling his disciples to become shrewd as snakes. Now be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local council and be flogged in the synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before the governors and kings as witnesses to them and to Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say. At that time, you will be given what to say, for it will not be your speaking, but the Spirit of your Father is speaking through you. So he is convincing his disciples that be alert, be smart, be cunning, and shrewd as snakes, and try to look as innocent as possible. So he is, in effect, telling his disciples to become hypocrites, and he is telling that you will be tortured. His disciples will be tortured because of the faith which they are propagating. But he is telling that he is assuring that whenever you will be brought before the attorney, before the court, you will get the wisdom, divine wisdom, that will help you to speak what you are supposed to speak, that will defend you. So basically, he is throwing his disciples into trouble. We see that in case of Muhammad also, one of his followers came before the battle of Badr and he asked him, "O Rasul, if we fight for you without any arm coat, without any shield, and then what will happen to me?" Then Muhammad replied that Allah is pleased the most with such dauntless attitude. He did the same in the battle of Badr and died. Then his mother came to Prophet, and then Prophet Muhammad and asked him, "What will happen to my son?" Then Muhammad told that your son will go to the best of the heavens and he will enjoy the company of sumptuous fairies. So Jesus is also doing the same thing. He is throwing his disciples, so-called apostles, into trouble. They may be beaten, they may be killed, but he is taking the risk. But here the difference was there. The people who fought with Muhammad's followers in the battle of Badr were Arabs who were very cruel. But here the government was Roman, who were more benevolent as compared to Arabs. Their traditions have more human content as compared to Arabs, after, as we see, of 600 years after that. So now, further, verse number 21 onwards. Brother will betray brother to death, and father his child, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to the another. Truly I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. He is telling that you will be tortured, but don't worry, I will come in opportune time to save you. The student is not above the teacher, nor the servant above his master. It is enough for a student to be like his teacher, and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more the members of this household? And now Beelzebul, I have already told, is a symbol of Satan. He is a Satan, a flying Satan that is having wings. So he is telling that you go with courage from one place to another, and do not worry, because of the fact that you are my student and you cannot be above me. You are my servant and you cannot be above me. At the most, you can be equal to me, but not better. And if the head of the house is as bad as a Satan, then you cannot expect anything good from the other members of that house. So he is inferring also to himself that he is the master, so he is better than his disciples, and he is also inferring to different households or different village heads. If the village head is not good, then the other members of that village will also be not good. So he is telling to flee from that place and go to other place. So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roof. He is telling that do not be afraid. Tell what you want to tell, and do not hide anything in you. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. He is telling that you don't be afraid if they attempt to kill you, because they can kill you but they cannot kill your soul. So this is a very, very dangerous precepts which is given here. It is promoting suicide bombing sort of thing. What we see the suicide bombers nowadays. So this verse is having all the connotations of that. Are not two sparrows sold for penny? He is also telling before that, rather be afraid of one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. So he is just making them afraid of the hell, and that fear is so high that the fear of death in this earthly world is much less. So he is brainwashing the people to attach to the life after death rather than the life on this earth. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny, yet not one of them will fall to the ground. He ground outside the Father's care. He is telling that the Lord, the Jehovah, is taking care of small creatures like sparrow. So he will also take care of you. So do not be afraid. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. So he is telling that God is taking care of as small creatures as a sparrow. He is taking care of your soul, your body, everything will be taken care. So he is also telling that very hairs of your head are all numbers. That means even if your hair is thickly curled with the hairs, still those hairs can be counted. Similarly, the number of days which are ahead of you in your life are also counted. So do not be afraid, because 10, if 10 is there, then 20 is there, because 10 plus 10 is 20 and 20 plus 20 is 40. So everyone's days are counted. When is going to leave this world, no one knows, but he will definitely leave. Someone will leave after 30 years, someone will leave after 40 years. Similarly, like somebody is having a lot of hair, somebody was having less hair, but even if the person is having very thick hair on his head, still those hairs are counted. So he's in effect telling that do not be afraid of the wrong people. Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in the heaven. But whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father in the heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did come to bring peace, but with a sword. For I have come to turn. He is assuring them that in the previous verses, he is assuring them that please acknowledge me as the messenger of God or son of God or representative of God. If you do so, only then I will acknowledge you and I will identify you in the kingdom of heaven. In other words, he is telling that if you follow me, if you acknowledge me as God's own person, then only the heaven is guaranteed. Otherwise, hell is guaranteed. because he is telling that whosoever disowns him will be discredited in front of Jehovah in heaven. And now he is telling that I have not come to bring peace. Rather, he is telling that I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against a mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Why he is telling that? Even he is just cohorting the people. He is just goading the people to to show dissent against the father, against their mother, for the sake of Jesus Christ, for the sake of me. I am the Jesus Christ, I am the best, I am the better than your parents, than your father, than your mother. And if your parents are telling something against, then you fight with them. Fight with them with a sword. It means you kill them, because I love only those people who love me more than they love their parents, fathers, and mothers. This verse will come very soon. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. He is clearly telling that anyone who loves me more than his or her father or mother, or anyone who loves me more than his son or daughter, is only worthy of me. That means he is telling that love me more than your own kith and kin, own near and dear one. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it. Whoever loses life for my sake will find it. So here he is telling that whoever is preferring the life on this earth, the company of his near dear one, and enjoying the life as it is, as it come to him, they will lose it in their life. But whosoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Whosoever will follow me and for me he is ready to sacrifice his life will find it, will find the life, will find the life in the heaven. This is the same thing we find in Quran Sharif also. There also Prophet Muhammad is telling, and this is corroborated in a hadith Sahih Bukhari also, that true Muslim is the only one who loves Rasulullah more than his parents, more than his sons and daughters, more than his family. So the same thing is repeated by Prophet Muhammad. The difference between Jesus and Prophet is that Prophet got some political power within his lifetime. So the entire these verses which were repeated in Quran Sharif were used to wage war against the people who were not following Prophet Muhammad. Same thing Christians did when they got political powers much later in the reign of Constantine in 4th AD in Rome. The 39th verse is very important. He is telling that whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. That means it is promoting crusade. It is telling that you kill yourself to propagate my views on others. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. That means if you are welcomed by someone, in effect he is welcoming me. If anybody welcomes me, that means that person is also welcoming me, who has sent this person to welcome me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward, and whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones who is my disciple, I tell you, that person will certainly not lose their reward. He is telling that whosoever is encounter in front of you and he is even giving you a cup of water, still he is better than those people who are shutting their door in front of your mouth. So, in a way, Jesus Christ is promoting bigotry here. He is so arrogant, he is so selfish that he wants salvation. He is promising heaven only to those persons who are welcoming his disciples, who are welcoming him, who are acknowledging him as prophet, as the representative of the Lord. And for rest of the people, there is hell, because he is telling that those who disown him will not be recognized in the kingdom of heaven, and they will be thrown into hell. So with this I am.